Have you ever sat down at the piano, opened the hymn book, and thought, how am I going to take this hymn and turn it into a full congregational style? In this video, I'm going to give you 3 tips to transform your hymn playing, whether you play at church like me or at home or just for fun. So stick around to the end of the video, because at the end, I'm going to take these 3 tips and demonstrate them for you in a simple hymn, Send the Light. The first step is to recognize the chords in the song. When you open up a hymn book, you're going to see a sheet and you're going to see music that looks like this. Now, this was not intended for piano playing. This is a 4-part choral writing. There's a bass, tenor, alto, and soprano note. When we play hymns, we want to take this information that we get on this page and be able to translate it into what we need to be able to play in a full congregational style. So, when you look at a hymn book, you want to start to learn to read it as if it's a chord sheet. Break down each measure and look at it as a chord. Most hymns will have one chord per measure. And there are exceptions, so be careful. But many times, the entire measure will be just one chord. And the chord changes will happen at the beginning of the next measure. So take a look here at this hymn, Send the Light. It's in the key, in this hymn book, it's in the key of G, 1 sharp. So the chords in the key of G will come from the G major scale. So think of the G major scale to know what chords you'll find in this song. The G major scale is G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. So the chords will come from each of those scale notes. And we call the first scale note the 1, and so the chord built from the first scale note is the G. G, B, and D. And then each note in the scale has its own chord. This is the 2. It's a minor chord. The minor 2, the minor 3, the 4 chord major, the 5 chord, the 6 chord, and then the 7 you don't really have to worry about. So the 1, 4, and 5 chords are the main chords you'll find in most hymns. The 1 chord in this key is G, the 4 chord is C, and the 5 chord is D. So if we look at the first measure of Send the Light, it is clearly a G chord throughout the entire measure. Every note, with just 2 exceptions, is one of these notes. The bass, soprano, alto, and tenor, they're all singing one of these notes. The melody uses these notes. The harmonies uses these notes. So we can look at that entire first measure and see that we can use a G chord. So the reason why we want to analyze the hymn and find the chords and read it this way is so that we can do the next step, which is to embellish the chords. And when I say embellish, that can sound complicated because we might think that we're throwing in extensions and alterations. But when I say embellish, that does include those things, but that's more advanced. So I'm just talking about adding the notes that are in the triad to what you're playing. And so if I were to play what's written, that's what's written there for the beginning of this hymn. So that's what the chorus, the choir would sing. A choral arrangement would sing. They'd sing those notes, but it doesn't sound as good on the piano. And so when I say embellish, I mean just play more of the notes in the chord. So instead of playing, I would fill in my left hand. So my left hand is playing in the G chord, is playing the G and the D, but I can play the B in there as well. My right hand is playing the B and the G. I can put the D in there as well. So that embellishing just comes down to playing more notes. And you say, well, I don't know what notes to play. Well, just play more notes that are in the chord. And so that's why we want to analyze first and see each measure, think of it as a chord, and then embellish the chords in each measure. And it can be easy because the chord will stay the same throughout that entire measure. So a good rule of thumb when embellishing is to not play chords low. that doesn't sound as good. So when you get low, I would encourage you to take the root note of the chord and play it as an octave. So if it's a G chord, the root note is the G. If it's a D chord, the root note is D. If it's a C chord, the root note is C. So the first measure, so I'm going to play an octave of the root note lower. Don't play it here because it sounds so much more powerful down here. And then in the right hand, I'm going to just fill in the missing note. So already that sounds better, and that's going to be much more congregational, and it's already more full than it's already taken a big step in the right direction. So just to be able to read just to be able to recognize the chord in each measure and then start to take steps to embellish. Now, you can go much further with this embellishment. So if you're more on the advanced side, then what you can do is, yes, you can start to add in the extended notes. So a G chord in the key of G can have the major 7, the 9, the 11, and the 13. So all these notes are options to continue to embellish. So instead of playing just 3 notes, you can use those notes to embellish and play more notes. But the best option I find, if your hands can reach it, is just to double the top note. So now I'm playing a full octave chord in my right hand, and I've just taken that top note and doubled it. Now, if you can't reach, then it still is beneficial to play the melody, play your right hand up high. That can always sound more full. But if you can reach, go ahead and double that melody note. Again, you can use the extended notes, the 7, the 9, the 11, the 13. But for congregational style, you'll find that may be fighting against the goal of congregational playing. You want to help the congregation, and if you start playing too complicated, then it may make it harder for the congregation to follow. So just sticking with full chords, full octaves in the bass and full chords in the right hand, as much as you can reach, will really help. Now, let me just give you this. You might look at the first measure and see that the melody notes are, and you look at these notes right here, and you may think that you have to jump down and play a triad there and try to do it. And that can make your job very hard. So the main beats that you want to embellish on are the first and the third, and other beats that fit easily under the hand. But if you were to try to jump to that real fast, it would make it difficult, and it's not really that important. It's much more complicated, and it doesn't yield much of a benefit to the overall purpose of congregational playing. So what you can do is just for that melody note, you can just play one finger. So that way the congregation is still hearing it, they're able to follow you, but you're not trying to jump around unnecessarily complicated way, and you'll be able to stay on time and lead better doing that. Same thing applies with all these 16th notes in this song. There's no reason to outdo yourself trying to get to each one of those and play a full chord on a 16th note. And you may be able to do it, and of course there's nothing wrong with doing it if you're able to, but most of the time, unless you're very accomplished, it'll just cause this song to be way harder than it needs to be. And honestly, the first and the third beat are the main beats that you want to use to lead the congregation, so you don't even have to play all the melody notes. And this is something that a lot of pianists think. They think, well, I have to play all the melody, and if I miss a melody note, I'm messing up. But if you miss a melody note, it can quite often go unnoticed. So if the congregation is singing and I'm helping them by playing in a full way, and I'm playing most of the melody but leaving some out, then the congregation is going to be able to follow very easily. There's a call comes ringing o'er the restless wave, send the light, send the light. So use that. I left out all the notes on the fourth beat in every measure. So you don't have to play every single note, and you don't have to play a full chord on every note. The goal is to just move in the direction of playing more notes with the chords. Embellish the chords, and that'll make the hymn sound much more full. So first, you have to analyze and recognize the chords for each measure. And you want to start to see a hymn, and in your mind, you're seeing it like a chord sheet. So if you've ever played from a lead sheet or a chord sheet, it's got the lyrics and chords. You want to see the hymn book that way. You're looking at the hymn, but you're not seeing all the soprano, alto, tenor, bass. You're seeing it as this is a G chord. All these notes are a G chord, and so I'm going to use a G chord for this measure. And then you look at the next measure and say, this is all a D chord. I'm going to use a D chord for all of this measure. You have to first recognize the chords, and then begin to embellish the chords. And lastly, step 3 is to fill in the spaces. So you want to be thinking this way the entire time you're playing, because when a note is held, the congregational piano player uses that as an opportunity to fill in the space. It is much more energetic, and it helps the congregation keep track of the rhythm, and gives them cues to come in at the next line. So in Send the Light, at the end of the first line, there is a dotted half note which gets 3 beats. So rather than just ending there and just holding it for 3 beats, there are several options we can do to fill in the spaces. So you can do a simple run in the right hand, or a run or a fill, or a bass hand or a left hand bass movement. All these options are simple and effective at keeping the energy high and helping the congregation and playing in a congregational style. So when I get to the end, that is one I like to do. So again, go back to the chords and think of the notes in the chord. And you can use any note in that chord, and your ear will help you, what you think sounds good. But you can use any note in that chord and just repeat it. Repeat it in a different pattern, a different rhythm, or in a different register. So I'm on a D chord, and it's held for 3 beats, so I just played the octave here and played it in that rhythm. Da, da, da. And that's a great option right there. So you can play any note in the chord, and you can also play different notes in the chord to create a fill, a walk up, a run up in some way. You can also do the same thing in the left hand. But you want to always be looking for opportunities to fill in the spaces. And again, because I know what the chord is for the measure, I have all these options. I can use notes from the chord. I can use the chord itself. Another option is to repeat or echo the melody. And you can just play whatever the melody note is, or the melody chord, or whatever chord you just played. A great option to fill is just to repeat that in a different register. So if I finish the first line, that is a great option, and it may sound, you may think that's too basic, but it's something that I use all the time, and I hear very good pianists use that all the time. And the same concept can apply at the left hand, but going low. But there are so many options for fills, but you want to start simple. As you get better at it and you feel you have more freedom to be able to do these, you can also incorporate bass walks that lead to the next chord. And so the chord of the first line, the end of the first line where we hold it for 3 beats, is a D chord, and then the beginning of the next measure is a G chord. And so this is a great bass walk that leads from the 5 to the 1, and it's a perfect way to go to fill in the left hand. So you can play it as quarter notes and start on the first beat, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then play the G on the beginning of the next measure. Or you can play it as eighth notes and start on the third beat. One word of caution, though, you'll need to count this when you first start doing it, because quite often there will be a pickup note that you have to be aware of. And so in this case, when we sing Restless Waves, Send the Light, we're going to sing Send the on the fourth beat. Send the light. And that will be at the same time as our run, as a couple notes in our run. So we go. Restless waves, send the light, send the light. So it does take some practice, and you need to count it when you first start doing it. Count it out, because one of the worst things that you could do when you're playing in a congregational style is lose timing, because the congregation is counting on that rhythmic foundation coming from the percussion instrument, which is the piano. So don't lose timing. You'll need to practice in rhythm. As you begin to experiment, you'll find so many options. It can be so much fun to come up with fills and runs to add in when there's space. So, as you get better, you may be able to incorporate flashy runs like that as the congregation is holding a note. Other right-hand runs that are like scales that are flashy, or different runs that incorporate the blues scale. But all these are options that you can begin to fill in. And if you want to start doing runs and scales, just a simple major scale is great to start with. But again, you'll need to count it, because if you just do it without thinking, you'll find that a scale does not perfectly fit within 4 beats or 2 beats. If you're going to scale up an octave or 2 octaves, you'll have to be aware that you need to offset the beginning of it, like this. You'll need to adjust the timing a little bit so you can end on the beat. But it's important to count it out if you're going to start doing runs, and to be aware, these are 16th notes, and there's these many can fit in this space that I'm going to do. So always begin to look for opportunities to fill in the spaces. And if you do just these 3 things, and start simple. If you're not used to playing hymns and you sit down and you look at the hymn book and playing something like this, you say, well, what's wrong? How come I can't make it sound better? If you just do these 3 things, nothing else, and in a simple way, and you just start adding those in, it'll take your hymn playing to the next level. Next, I want to show you how I implement some of these ideas in this song when I play it for church. That's it for this video. I appreciate you watching. Please go ahead and hit the like button, and I'd like to have you subscribe to this channel for more lessons just like this. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Until next time, keep practicing.